says I'm streaming. It says excellent. There we go. There we go. Hello. Hello, everyone. It is 6 p.m. is my concealer and my lipstick. So I guess if people want to know, I have a little mini Shape Tape concealer. Ooh, it's so crisp on the focusing on that. Ooh. 2014 beauty guru lifestyle. Here I come. And this is, I should not use this anymore. This is definitely expired. Don't listen to me. But this is the ColourPop More Better is the color. So you guys can't buy this anymore. Just so you guys know, it's on my face currently because I filmed a video earlier today. And so I have things on my face, which I don't normally on Fridays. And this black eyeshadow is crappy. It's really bad. I don't recommend it. It looks like, it looks like garbage. But, you know, it is what it is. I've been wearing it. I'm not going to take it off just to stream. We're here. We're hanging out. We're having a good time. How is everyone doing? Happy Friday. What is going on? Yes, definitely refresh your browser. If you wouldn't be able to hear me say this, so yeah, definitely if you hang out before the stream starts, sometimes you have to restart when I do actually start streaming. All right. I love how every little set of numbers that YouTube is giving me is like completely different. It's like, oh, you have one person watching you or 90 people watching you. No in between. But hi everyone. How are we doing? What is going on? Love the early crew. So glad you could be here on this wonderful Friday. I realized we're like halfway through the month of October. We are almost to Halloween, and I'm wearing a dress, okay? I got nothing on my shoulders. It's 80 degrees outside. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. It's confusing. I'm not in Halloween spirit mode yet. I wish I was. But we had like a day of fall weather. We had a day of fall weather. And it makes me sad that we don't, like, will I be upset in like March when it's raining 45 degrees and I'm miserable? Yes. But I would like to go pick pumpkins, and I can't do that. Watching this crazy movie called X. Oh, I don't know what that is. I don't really know anything about movies, honestly. You could tell me any movie title, but I'm watching this and I'd be like, that's probably a movie. I don't I watch more people reviewing movies than I do actually watching the movies myself. I'm just like, the analysis is typically to me more interesting than the movie itself. So I do not watch the movies. I do, however, watch Great British Bake Off. Do we have any Bake Off fans in the house? I love Great British Bake Off. What they did to Mexican food last week harmed me emotionally. I'm not Hispanic. I don't have anyone. My family is fucking Welsh, Irish, Scottish. Like, that's my family. Okay, we did not leave the United Kingdom for any members of our family. Like, we did not leave one of two islands. So I do not have any sort of heritage relationship to Mexican food, but I did grow up in Florida and like the South in general. And so I am familiar with what things are supposed to be, and hearing British people say things like guacamole and fucking cutting an avocado like they were peeling an apple did psychic damage. But if you guys like relaxing TV, if you're like, I haven't watched it, I don't know if I should give it a try. Especially, like, I wouldn't say the early seasons, but like a couple years in. I think I started watching like season 3, season 4. If you want like relaxing background TV, great stuff. Love watching the Great British Bake Off. I've talked about it for forever. It's like, I don't really have comfort TV, but like I guess that show for me is comfort TV. And I am upset at what they did to avocados and tacos in that show. It made me mad and sad. Yeah, I was in Florida during a couple of hurricanes, and I know what that is. I distinctly remember one time. I think it was 5. I definitely remember a whole street being flooded because I don't think it was bad enough for us to evacuate. There was a couple times where we did evacuate. I was really young. I lived in Florida when I was 3 until I was 8. And so I remember being there, and there were a couple times my mom would just be like, all right, pick out your favorite toys. Like, we're going on a road trip. And then we didn't know what was going on. We're like, oh, road trip. And then later I'm like, that's because my dad had to stay behind. And for, like, reasons. I'm not going to talk about why. I don't want to talk about, like, my family too much. But my dad would stay behind, and then, like, I would go with my mom. And it would just be so weird. Being like, oh, why are we in a hotel? Where's Dad? And then, like, I'd find out, like, we'd come back home, and the streets would still, like, be flooded. And we'd have fucking fish in our backyard. They'd be, like, there was a retaining pond or something, like, a couple blocks away from my house that we lived in, and I definitely remember, like, alligators, like, coming in and hanging out, like, at post-hurricane. So luckily didn't ever have to experience any really bad ones, but I definitely remember, like, a couple of scary situations. Actually, when I lived in Virginia was scarier because we had a couple of not hurricanes, but tornadoes. If I had to choose, you're like Tornado Alley or like Hurricane Gulf Coast 100%. I like tornadoes are random, and like if you don't have like a severe weather monitor in your house pinging at you at 2 a.m., like, you're probably going to be toast. So that's my opinion about extreme weather events, I guess, that no one asked for. But I know what it's like, and I hope that everyone, if you're from Florida, if you got family there, if you live there now, I wish you the best. I know what it's like to have to prepare for a hurricane. I don't live there anymore, obviously, but it's really scary. And, like, especially looking back on it now from when I was younger, and I was like, oh, we, like, went through there were some bad hurricanes that happened, like, when I lived there. And for some reason, we always got relatively lucky with stuff, and we always evacuated when we needed to. But yeah, it's not fun. Also, it is very hard to have, like, Halloween decorations out when your house is flooded. So yeah. All right. So now that we are vibing and hanging out, let's go ahead and get into just what the baseline is like when it's here. So if you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. We love new people. Welcome. We have mods. Listen to the mods. Number 1. This is an 18 plus only live stream because this is a BDSM, polyamory, asexuality, look, whatever, Q&A, chatty time, and sometimes we talk about TV and hurricanes and weather, and that all also is part of it. But we primarily talk about adult topics, and so this is an adult only live stream. I'm sure that you are wonderful and competent and smart and know yourself, and it's great. Please come back when you're a teen. It's for everyone's safety, yours, mine, everyone in the chats. Just obey that one, please. Also, there is an FAQ and a set of rules down below. Please read those. Really basic, really simple. Basically, don't spam the chat. I answer questions in the order they come in, so if you want to make sure I answer your question, definitely ask early on, because I'm not going to be able to get to everything. That's also what super chats are for. Those are down in the chat, and also through Streamlabs as well if you want it to be read out loud. That can be a really fun thing to do. But basically, just be polite. Don't spam. I don't give medical advice or mental health advice. That's for the professionals, not for me. So just keep that in mind. If you want to know about, like, hey, I have borderline personality disorder. How do I do BDSM? I'm not going to be able to help you with that. But I can give you the general emotional support of, like, hey, there are all kinds of people that do BDSM, all sorts of different backgrounds. I cannot tell you your particular situation and how to navigate that. So that is the basic rundown on that. And then we do have obviously some kind of suggested topics that are in the title of the stream. However, sometimes we totally talk about completely different things. It just depends on what you all ask about. I realized I did a video on Petplay earlier today. So, you know, maybe I should just wear these. What do you guys think? Should I just wear these for the stream? I worry about, like, if YouTube suggests this video to random people and people see, like, a girl in her mid-20s wearing cat ears, they're going to be like, oh, we're going to clip that and send that to, I don't know, Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, if you're listening to this, I don't believe I'm a dog or a cat trapped in a human's body. This is a fun roleplay thing, just to be clear. But, I thought we could talk about Petplay because we haven't talked about that for a while. And then I recently did an interview talking about master-slave relationships that if you're on Patreon, you guys will have seen. But if you haven't, we could talk about that and just like power change in general because I feel like that's been coming up a lot recently. And also, one final thing I will mention. Thank you so much for the super chat as well. Oh gosh,
Nathan donated $16. Let him who hath understanding reckon the number. M.
Okay, well, what the fuck was it about? Okay, just totally lost my train of thought. Oh yes, Patreon. So on Patreon, we're doing a movie night for Halloween. We're going to be watching Hocus Pocus 2. So if you want to be a part of that, if you want to vote on what time we're doing that, it's looking like it's going to be like the day before Halloween right now in the evening. That's the one that's winning. But if you want to be part of that, we're watching Hocus Pocus together sometime before Halloween. It's going to be super fun. We watched just the original Hocus Pocus, I think last year. What did we watch? We watched like Practical Magic. We've done this a couple years in a row now. So it's always really fun. Great movie night. Come hang out. It's on Patreon. Literally $80 level. It's cheaper than a Disney Plus subscription. Come hang out. Come watch a fun movie with me. That's the deal. So, anyways, I'm just going to keep wearing these until somebody tells me not to. Yes, those are waiting. Why not take the opportunity to click the like? Yes, click the like button. If you like the stream, give it a like because I guess it helps people find the stream. And also just helps me know that you guys are here and I love it. Really enjoying your latest interviews. By the way, wishing you a wonderful Friday. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys are enjoying the interviews. I have so many more that are on the way. There are 2 that are currently live on Patreon that are not on YouTube. So you want to see those early because I'm kind of doing like 2 regular videos in the interview and then 2 videos in the interview. Like I'm trying to kind of pace them out a little bit just so it's not like nothing but interviews for like 3 weeks, which is what it would end up being. But I have a bunch of interviews that are on Patreon. They're going to be on Patreon way before they come out on YouTube. So you want to see that, check it out. I have 1 more I'm trying to schedule. Hasn't come together yet. And then I have 5-ish, I think, that are coming out. And then like maybe 1 more that I'd want to do that I haven't even reached out to the person yet. But I'd like to do it if possible. So I'm glad that people are enjoying them. I find like it's really weird because I don't know if it's because of how long they are, but I find that like whenever I publish an interview, it gets like no views for like the first hour it's up, and then YouTube's like, this video is like your worst performance. Like YouTube is a cruel mistress. All right, YouTube is just like you publish a video and it's the 10th worst. It's the worst video out of the last 10 you posted. Womp womp womp, thumbs down, sad, try better next time. And then like by the time it's been up for like 2 days, it's like halfway up. It's like just totally mid. And I'm like, I wish these performed better, but like also YouTube is not really the place for like hour-and-a-half long interviews. So I kind of get it that like it's not going to get as much engagement, but everyone seems to really enjoy them. And so even if they don't get as much engagement, I'm still going to talk about it and do them because I really want to make sure that people know about other educators, other perspectives, get to ask questions, and cover topics that I don't either personally know about or I know that other people have different opinions about or do in a different way than what I would do or talk about in a different way from what I would say. So I'm glad they're enjoyed. Thank you for watching them. Thank you for interacting with them. I know that the people who do them, I have basically gotten universal like good feelings from everyone that I've interviewed being like, thanks for having me on, it was really fun. Hopefully everyone likes it, and yeah. I'm starting my own BDSM shop on Etsy. I was wondering if you had any advice. I plan to sell decorated adult passies, so pacifiers, handmade ears and tails, and other little / pet play items. I was also wondering what you know on selling at conventions because I'm interested in trying to do that if I'm able to. So, I have never sold anything on Etsy, so I don't really have any advice on that. What I do know from people I know that are, like, they sell, like, I don't really know anyone that sells, like, pet play gear, but people that sell, like, floggers and things, so, like, kind of similar BDSM wheelhouse. Conventions are really hit or miss. Most people I know that go to conventions depending on the size of it, you don't always end up making your money back because you have to pay the convention like way ahead of time to get a spot in the whatever they have, like a vendor's hall or like a vendor section. Depending on what they have set up, it's going to cost you a lot of money to be able to get a spot for that. And you might not necessarily make your money back. So conventions, I wouldn't say are like a money-making opportunity. I think most people that I know that go to them, it's more of a brand recognition thing where it's like you go, people can see your stuff, they take a business card, and then maybe later they get like something custom made, or they go on your Etsy shop later. Like most people I know do not treat conventions as like a money-making thing, though I do know people that sell like normie vanilla shit, that like sell candles and bodies stuff, and they go to like craft fairs and farmers markets, and they can do really, really well at those. But for BDSM conventions, because of how particular they are, and depending on which thing you go to, your audience for what you're selling might not be there, right? Like if you're selling adult pacifier stuff and like Petplay stuff, if you're going to a leather convention, there could be a lot of like baby girls there, but there might not. You just like, if you haven't been there before, you might not know what to expect. So I wouldn't necessarily get into doing convention related stuff, but I would definitely, like, Etsy's fine, definitely get like a FetLife account, Instagram, TikTok. Like definitely social media is a really good thing for almost everyone I know that like sells handmade stuff. It's a pain in the ass, but otherwise, it's really hard to get recognized unless you do things like that, and just focus on having fun and doing what you like, and don't take like negative customer feedback too personally. Learn from the pink sauce girl, okay? If you guys know who that is, learn from the pink sauce girl. Don't react like that to feedback. Just, you know, take it in stride. Be like, oh, I'm sorry you didn't enjoy this. Like, can I give you a refund? You know, watch out for scammers. Like, I think this probably happens less with, like, adult stuff. But, like, definitely there'll be people who are like, my candle showed up broken and, like, I need a refund. And they won't show you any evidence of the candle being broken or anything. And they just do it as a scam, like, because they want free shit. So you gotta be careful, especially on Etsy. People are weird. Don't take it too personally. It is what it is. And good luck, because starting a business, especially right now, because we're kind of, the economy is, it's economizing, okay? The business cycle is cycling, and it's not necessarily going in a positive direction. So best of luck getting something started. And yeah, that's my advice. I am not, I don't know how to, I'm not, like, I sell stuff on, like, I sell, like, behind me, I have a rack of like secondhand stuff, but selling stuff secondhand to like hobbyists is very different from like operating a business. Like, yes, I know how to like ship things on time, but I don't really know anything else about like the business side of things, especially Etsy. Like Etsy fees and stuff can be really complicated. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna end that. I would love to know if anyone else here has more experience with like Etsy, you know, marketplace stuff, or like alternatives to that, because I know a lot of people are very like, they're not fans of Etsy right now, so other alternatives would be good. All right, next question. Waited for the streams to start, aware that you would start speaking. I got scared and jumped hearing your voice, thinking someone was behind me. Listen, that's the most Halloween thing I've done this month. I will count that as a win. I'm sorry. I hate being spooked by stuff too. I hate that. Like, if somebody doesn't have their like audio levels adjusted, and they have like a YouTube video they're watching in a video, or they have music or something, and just like suddenly a huge spike in volume, hate that. It's the worst. This weather is really weird. I did see in the forecast, I think it's, I'm looking at my phone, I think it's supposed to be, yeah, it's gonna rain next weekend, which is funny, just like timing wise. I was like, oh, maybe we'll get to Halloween and people can like not have to bundle up, but it's gonna be rainy and like in the 60s. I actually don't know if the forecast is gonna like get hot again after that. It would be funny if it did. But I think we might finally be on the downslope of like the last couple of days before it actually starts to get cool around here. It would be wild if we got to November and it was still in the 70s. Like, I didn't even think that happened when I lived in Florida. Like, I don't really remember because I was like 5, but I feel like definitely 60s was much more November weather. congrats, Christina. I begin gender-affirming hormone therapy on the 27th of this month. Congratulations. I know it's going to be such a difficult process to find care for that and resources, and good luck on your journey. Do you have a direct contact? I deliver adult education Zoom sessions. I'd like to pick your brains. I do have a business email. I'm going to warn you, I'm a little bit busy with like side projects right now. I'm working on like actually teaching myself. I'm going to be working potentially, I don't want to spoil anything. I'm potentially going to be working with like a local, like really well-known sex toy boutique and doing classes with them. I'm going to be working with like a coach and doing classes through some of their stuff. I'm going on a bunch of podcasts. I'm busy, but if you want to contact me for like professional reasons, my business email I will put in the chat, and then it's in like my YouTube about thing. It's in generally like my videos, like in the description area. It should be in there, but just in case you don't know what it is, I will put it in the chat again, just because why not? Okay, so my business email address is lupineeventide, which I don't expect anyone to be able to spell, at gmail.com. Do not send me your fantasies. Do not send me pornography. Do not send me offers to buy me as a slave. I don't want to measure your dick size. I don't want to do anything like that. Just be normal, okay? Be normal, adjusted to all human beings. If you can just do that, that would be great. So don't misuse it. I will block you. And if you do want to do consultations, I do that through my Patreon, and that's patreon.com/evlupine2. Links to that like almost always like pop in the chat like every like half hour or so. That I do for like consultations if you want like more of like an in-depth thing besides just like a quick question or something. So just FYI. But also, if you do have questions, you can ask it on here, because that's why we do the FAQs on the Fridays and do the streams, is to answer questions, ask questions, and just have a little bit of a back and forth. Are there even pumpkins though? Like, do pumpkins do okay in this hot weather? I'm not sure, honestly. I haven't even seen a pumpkin. My eyeballs have not seen a pumpkin this month. I have seen Halloween decorations. I have seen little ghosts and like inflatables. I don't think I've seen a pumpkin like in a store. I don't think people have pumpkins in their yards, but I haven't. I'm like, where did you get those? Did you just get them out of your backyard? I don't know. I want to go pick pumpkins so badly, but I can't. Psychic damage delivered via fucking up other national cuisine is our specialty. It is a very British thing to do. I will say that about the Great British Bake Off. But what was so funny is Paul, one of the hosts of the show, was like, I just went to Mexico. Like, I'm going to do him in a Valley Girl accent because he actually has like a Manchester accent, and I can't approximate it anyway. But he basically is like, he sounds like a girl who just came back from like her spring break trip, being like, I just went to Mexico, and actually tacos, because he says tacos, so British people say it apparently, tacos are supposed to be like this, and it's like, you have a fake spray tan and you went to Mexico for like a week. I don't think you know anything about this, actually. Like, he kept saying like fucking, the thing that killed me is they were doing pan dulce, which is like sweetbreads, right? Like, so they were doing, almost everyone did like one very particular type of sweetbread, but he kept telling them that they should have put filling in it. Like, sir, this isn't a jelly donut. I don't know anyone who's ever like, I think there are some that will have like a cream filling in them that are more like inspired by like eclairs and things like that, but for the most part, pan dulce does not have like fucking jelly filling in it. He gave some really weird feedback for stuff, and it's like, have you had this at like more than like a British tourist resort? Like, do you? And he kept telling them they weren't like tall enough, which like normally they're a little bit more like conchas are like, and I don't know why, like I think it's conchas are like a little bit more flat and wide from what I've experienced, and he was like, they need to be taller, and it's like, it's not a fucking dinner roll. Like, what? Anyways, it was very bizarre. British people ruin everyone else's cuisine, part 10. It was, It was tragic. I'm hoping whatever this week is gonna be better. I would think taco is the American pronunciation and taco is no. They say taco. It's like obviously with like a more British inflection on the vowels because I'm not British and I can't do that personally. But just trust that they say it, and also they like other. Oh yeah, the fucking he kept saying pico. How do you even say it? It was. I think he said pico de gallo. Pico de gallo. Which is funny because almost everyone else said it correctly. And I was like, wait, you know how to say tortilla, but you don't, but like you can't translate the double L Y, like you got it once and then you couldn't get it over here. Like, I know in Great Britain, most people learn French as their second language in school, but like, you were just in Mexico and bragging about how you were just in Mexico. And yet at no point you picked up on, like, one of the most basic aspects of, like, saying... And then you recorded it! And then you recorded it for a fucking international televised show. You know what? That's the take. He's just gonna say it. Like, we only need one. We need one take of this pre-recorded segment where we could have done 20 takes until he said it correctly. We didn't do that. Anyways, I have feelings about it. It just makes me sad because, like, it could have been so much better and then it wasn't. And I was sad. It's definitely weird that in 2022 they still don't know about basic Mexican food. It felt like a troll. Yeah, they're like, I don't know what, like, okay, if you're like a poor, like, West Midlands person and you, like, basically live on a farm that's been around since the 12th century, like, okay, I get that maybe you wouldn't have interacted with, like, super out there food before, but, like, how do you not know what an avocado is? Like, just don't know what guacamole is, never heard of it, never seen it before in my life. Like, it's like, if you went to, I don't even know what the equivalent of this is, but, like, it would be like you went to, like, a Chinese restaurant and you were like, what's an egg roll? Like, it's not even necessarily a super actual authentic Chinese thing, but, like, it's so ubiquitous in, like, restaurants that serve it overseas that, like, you have to, like, you've been to a million Mexican places and you've never interacted with guacamole. All right, okay. It's not Halloween until I watch Halloween cake competitions. Oh, I have never really watched any of that before. I don't have cable TV, but I know there's, like, the decorating shows and stuff on Netflix that they'll do where it's, like, extreme cake or, like, what channel is that? Is it the Food Network, I guess? I should watch those. I've seen some of the Halloween shows they've done with, like, decorating stuff, but I don't think I've ever seen it as, like, a competition. But those are fun. I remember back in, like, 2004 when we got 3 straight weeks off school because of hurricanes. I always say people up north got snow days, we got hurricane days. Yes, that's very true. Unless you're really far north, in which case you don't get snow days. They're like, 8 feet of snow? That's probably fine. You're good. Just get your snowshoes on. Everyone has those. They'll be fine. What about Halloween decorations out while advertising Christmas? Listen, I was looking for a rug, and I think it was a Home Goods. And I went to a Home Goods, and they had a Halloween section. That's actually pretty good. They had a lot of Halloween decorations. I was pleasantly surprised by the selection. But they definitely, like, right behind it, had, like, a whole aisle of Christmas stuff. And they had some, like, general fall harvest kind of Thanksgiving, you know, turkey, pumpkin type situation stuff as well. But it was mostly Halloween and then Christmas. And it was like, this was even a couple weeks, this was like the first week of October. And I was like, you know what? I haven't been in a store in like 2 weeks, but I'm sure that even in like the beginning of September, they had Christmas stuff. They were like back to school Christmas. That will get to me. Like, I just want all holidays to have their own like respected zone where it's like, okay, you get Halloween's like September, October, Thanksgiving if you're American, and this is when you have Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is October, November, and then Christmas is like November, December. And like Christmas gifts before that, because I know people have to financially plan for that, and especially if you have a big family, like you're gonna have to save up and like be careful with your spending to get holiday gifts, so I get that. But like the decor and the advertisements and like the peppermint mochas, like bitch, I don't need a peppermint mocha. It's September. It's 85 degrees. I haven't thought about mint in like a year. Like I haven't even, that's not even on my radar. It's not even fucking, I'm not, what is it, pumpkin spice? I'm not a pumpkin spice person. I think I've had that like once. But if it's not even pumpkin spice season yet and it's not that weather yet, you probably shouldn't have Christmas stuff out. That's my vibe. Like at the very least. Oh my gosh. Okay, BB girl. I read about this. This is going to blow your mind. Did you hear about the cat litter they need for school? Yeah, bang bangs. And people cut it to say that it's for furries. Like, God, the Ben Shapiro's are so far gone. Yes. I mean, I don't normally talk about politics on this, but this is related to Petplay. So there, if you guys don't know, I've been on Twitter. And on Twitter today, there was a story floating around. Actually, something that came up. This was from Joe Rogan. I think Joe Rogan had said on his podcast that, like, he heard from, like, a family friend, like his wife's friend or something, that, like, you know, we have to have litter in schools now. And they cut it and, like, recontextualize it to be like, oh my God, furries are basically like trans people, and furries are demanding litter boxes in school because they identify as a cat, which is, like, that's wrong about trans people. It's wrong about furries. None of that is actually happening. No one is asking for a litter box in school so they can live out their true life as being a cat trapped in a human body. No one is getting anywhere near that in reality whatsoever. But what is happening is that litter is very absorbent. And essentially it's being used as part of a school preparedness kit for certain circumstances, and that's terrible. But for some reason, like, it's to me, like, my brain is like, oh my God, they did this on purpose because they don't want to talk about disasters. And so instead of talking about disasters, they're turning it into this fake thing that didn't happen to have to pretend outrage about furry kids in school. Listen, I know about cringe furry kids, all right? Every school had one that ran like they were in fucking Naruto, and they wore the same sweatshirt with ears on it 360 days of the year, and they meowed at people in the lunch line. Like, there are cringe furry teenagers. They exist. They're going to be mortifyingly embarrassed about it when they're older, or they're going to be a millionaire streamer. So, like, either way, their life's going to work itself out. None of them are asking for having a litter box in school because they think they're a cat trapped in a human body. That's not happening. And it's like, this is why I feel, one of the many reasons why I feel very strongly about trans issues is I feel like allyship around, like, queer culture, trans issues, even polyamory to some extent, but also, like, BDSM and, like, alternative relationships kind of more generally. I feel like all of this is very interconnected in terms of, like, we all need to support each other because basically we all get used by people that wish us harm to, like, delegitimize the other ones, right? Like, trans people get villainized because, oh my God, they're doing BDSM in public. Look, they have a kid on a stripper pole. Like, they freak out about stuff that isn't even actually happening, and they use things like BDSM and sexuality to malign already marginalized groups, to say, look how inappropriate they're being, look how awful they are, we must protect the children. And it's like, we all gotta stick together, you know. That's my opinion. I'm very, like, I try not to talk about politics in this. I will just end this here, is I feel like we all need to support each other and see that all of our issues, it's like when they come for one of us, they're coming for all of us. That's my opinion. Like, we gotta be there and be with each other. That's my hot take. Anyways, cat litter in schools. Then again, my school was huge. I went to a massive high school. So maybe just sort of like I ran the lottery enough of, like, there being enough kids in my school to where there was that one, like, exceptionally out furry that like was just there. Like, they didn't say they were a furry because that language wasn't really like around when I was in high school, I don't think. But like, they had all of the things that you would stereotype as being associated with like a cringy, kind of like weird furry teenager. Yeah, and then also it's used to like absorb vomit and also used for like de-icing roads. So like also just having litter in schools is like a thing that happens. Like, you can't like go to a janitor's closet, take a picture of litter and then go look at what the youths in school today with their furries and their therapy and their blah 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 blah. It's like, that's not happening. None of that's happening. Congrats though. Congrats on being mad about things that aren't real. And also, even if it is real, it's like, I don't know, I just can't, like, I don't know. I care more about other things besides this. Like, I'm like, I don't know, what do you want me to do? What do you want my reaction to be? I don't care enough. Oh well. High school's weird. It's gonna be over in 2 years, or 3 years, or 4 years. Move on. It's alright. Everyone will survive. It'll be okay. It feels like it was October 1st yesterday. Really, it does, though. It really does. I'm trying to get back to where I was in the chat. Thank you for the well wishes. Yes, thank you. I'm glad you like the lipstick. I don't normally dress up for streams because I don't want people to have a false expectation about how I look every day. And while I like wearing makeup and things and stuff like that, I also just like not wearing makeup, especially when it's very hot outside. And also, I want to eat dinner and not have to worry about reapplying my lipstick 3 times. So, I have a question. TPE versus DS or 24/7. Okay, that's like so many terms. I'm so happy to break all this down. So, TPE versus DS 24/7. So TPE stands for total power exchange. DS is dominant submissive, like dominant submissive relationships. And then 24/7 is like all of the time, like 365 days a year, all the time, constantly, in an ongoing way. I don't know if you mean like, I'm gonna just start out by like delineating how these terms are different, and then like if you mean like what I'm into, we'll talk about that. So total power exchange is a subset of a way of having a power exchange relationship, which is broadly synonymous with DS or dominant submissive relationships. Power exchange relationships can also include other labels like master slave, caregiver little, a bunch of other stuff besides just those 2 labels. But DS is also used as sort of like, in the same way that people say Hoover when they mean vacuum cleaner, like it's sort of it's a connotation that is broadly true, but not always. So power exchange in general can be a bunch of different things, and within that there's a scale of how much the power is exchanged within that exchange. You have partial power exchange, which to me is like 1 from 99 on the scale of like 1 to 100. It is either very, very little, if at all, power exchange, and then up to 99 where it's everything except for one thing. And when you get into exchanging all of the power, when your partner has all of the control over everything, or the potential to take control over everything, this is important, because total power exchange relationships are not necessarily that active in the sense that it's like micromanaging, where it's like every single day the master picks what you wear, what you eat, when you go to bed, when you use the bathroom, what you do at work today. Like, it can be that micromanaging, but generally it's I have the opportunity to take authority over whatever it is, whenever it is. And that's how it works. But partial power exchange is most relationships. Total power exchange is like a very, very far edge that most people will aspire to. And in fact, I've even heard people that talk about this say total power exchange isn't even an obtainable thing where it's like I have obtained having total power. It's something you work towards as the goal of the relationship, where the spirit of it is to act in the way where you're trying to get to that, even if it's not totally achievable. So that's what total power exchange is. DS or dominant submissive relationships are generally going to be partial power exchange relationships, because when you get into total power exchange, it's more commonly associated with master-slave relationships, because master and slave typically has a connotation of a higher power exchange than dominant and submissive does. Though some people also use the term master and slave just because it's like a hot thing for them. Thank you also for the super chat, Dave. Number one, I love the little Sheba sticker. It's so cute. Thank you. Love the fact they have doggo stickers on YouTube. And then finally, okay, we went over partial power exchange, total power exchange, DS, and MS. And then, because MS is master slave. And then we have 24/7 power exchange. So 24/7 power exchange is broadly correlated with partial power exchange and total power exchange, but not entirely. It's more like axes on a grid where you have like partial power exchange, non-24/7, partial power exchange is 24/7, yada yada. You get the point, right? It's a quadrant of a bunch of stuff. I would say the majority of people that have total power exchange relationships are also 24/7 by its very nature. But you can't have a 24/7 relationship where the power exchange is ongoing, because that's what it's about. 24/7 is about the power exchange always being present in some way in the relationship. That can be at a total level where it's, I'm always giving up all of my authority to my partner all the time, 24/7, weekday, weekend, whatever. You can also have partial power exchange relationships that are also 24/7, where it's not that they have control over everything, but that like my partner has authority over my physical presentation 24/7, and they get to decide everything related to that, but they don't have authority over what I eat or my work, right? So hopefully that clears up kind of how all those things are different. It can be very confusing how all those things kind of link up together. Broadly for me, I think I am very much in this day and age in my life, I think I steer more towards a partial power exchange relationship. I could see in the ideal of like, if I could have anything with my life, I would want to have a total power exchange relationship if it could be the exact way I want it to be in my head. If I could have it be perfect, I would have it be that. But in reality, in life, I would want it to be, I think, more likely it would be a partial power exchange relationship. And then I would want it to be 24/7. But I would want there to be some delineation with like collar use. And I do see your question, Andrew. We will get to that in a moment. Thank you very much. But for myself, I personally am like, okay, I think partial power exchange is like more realistic, more sustainable. I would want it to be 24/7. But with the way that I currently feel about collars is, I did have a time period, you guys will see my older videos, there was a time period where I did have a 24/7 collar, and I wore a collar every day for years. And I think that can be really great, but I think with the way that I would want to have my power exchange go, I would want there to be a 24/7 element to it, broadly, but I would want there to be a time when it's like, okay, right now in this moment today, for this scene, for this thing we're doing tonight, we're doing this really focused form of power exchange, and that's when the collar goes on. Like, I want the collar to be much more intentional than I think it was in some of my previous relationships. I would want it to be very clear that like, okay, this is the time when the collar is on, and when the collar is on, it's at this level of protocol, it's this level of submission, even though it's in the other parts of our relationship. Right now it's the focus, and right now we're really staying centered in that, as opposed to like, I think having it on all the time, it can kind of lose its meaning a little bit, lose its luster a little bit, where it feels very mundane and it doesn't have that same like headspace influence that maybe it would have otherwise. But that's just my hot take. All right, a question from Andrew. Any advice getting more comfortable with play areas at parties? I'm going to a kinky Halloween party soon, and I'm too self-conscious to play around other people, but I'd like to learn how. So that is totally valid. I think especially if, I don't know if you're a top or bottom or like what would be happening in that scenario. I think that's totally valid. I think that a lot of people go through like BDSM performance anxiety. And I personally, I gotta be honest, I never really went through that. I'm not an exhibitionist, but I didn't really feel uncomfortable playing in front of other people because I spent time watching other people first, and it was very normal. Like, it just felt like it was very normal. It was very casual. I didn't feel like I had to perform. Now I actually feel more nervous because when I was fucking 20 years old or whatever it was, when I was in the scene at first, and no one knew who I was a little bit popular on FetLife. I had an Instagram account. That was basically it. But no one at the dungeon knew I had social media. I had like 500 followers. Like, why would anyone give a shit? So I didn't have anyone that knew anything about me, so I could just be myself and not worry about, like, what if a scene goes wrong? What if I have to say a safe word? What if whatever? I never had to worry about that. And now I do. Now I'm like, oh my god, what if I'm at this convention and I do this scene and, like, it goes wrong because it's kind of risky, and then, like, people who know me from the internet see it, and, like, that very much makes me get in my head. So I can relate to what you're going through from, like, a more recent perspective, especially because I haven't been doing very much BDSM because of COVID. And I'm not really going to play parties because I don't trust any of the places around here that host play parties, except for the femdom event that I haven't been to yet, because we'll talk about that. So I think, are you going, is it just to a one night party? I'm going to assume it is. So I would probably say there's sort of two ways you can handle this if you're nervous, right? Either you play and you do your scene right at the beginning of the night before it gets really busy, and you just, like, before it's really busy, before everyone's, like, super into whatever it is they're doing and they're really, like, watching scenes like a hawk, either you play really early and you do it then to just, like, get it out of the way before, you know, it gets super busy and overwhelming, or you play way later on and you watch other people do their scenes first, and then you play maybe once it's kind of, like, past the midpoint of the evening. That would be my technique, because I think if you watch people and you get more into the energy of the space, and you just, like, when you watch other people, I mean, maybe this is just me, but I feel like when you watch other people and you kind of just get into the mindset of, like, doing scenes and playing, you become less in your head about, like, oh my god, am I gonna do this right? People are gonna judge me. What are they gonna think? Am I gonna do okay? Like, it just helps you be more in the moment, as opposed to, like, the fear of how it might go when you're thinking about it before it actually ends up happening. I would also, like, it really depends on the dungeon. Some of them will have more private play areas, so maybe if you can scope out a place that's, like, a little bit less popular, a little bit, like, more kind of in the corner off to the side, not as paid attention to as much, that might be better for, like, nerves as well. But, like, the thing that really helped me is just, like, reminding myself that even though we are in public and it is at a dungeon, I'm not playing for other people. Like, other people can enjoy it and watch it, but I'm having the scene for me, and I want to do it when I'm comfortable to do it. So I've been to lots of play parties where I don't play. I've been to lots of play parties where I'm just going to meet people, feel the vibe, and watch, and then decide if I want to come back, I'll play then. And I've had a couple of times now, especially recently, where I've gone to stuff and I've brought stuff to play. Like, if I would get into it, maybe it would be a good vibe. But I've gone with the intention of, like, just kind of seeing how things go and watching. And then that's either, when it's gone well, made me feel confident when I come back the next time to go ahead and play. Or I've been like, oh, these are not really my people. This is not really my energy. I'm not going to come back. This is not my thing. So that is what I would think about, is just, like, remind yourself that you are not playing for other people. You are playing for yourself and for your partner and for your enjoyment. And regardless of how it looks at the outside, if it seems really, like, newbie-ish, beginner-ish, whatever, it seems too simple, I don't know what it is you're worried about. Whatever it is, those people don't matter, right? They can choose to spectate or not. But it's not your job to please them. It's not your job to make them happy. It's not your job to impress anyone. You are there to have fun and have a good time for you, not anyone else. So just remind yourself, you can be a little selfish, do things for you. You don't have to perform for other people. I guess, unless you're doing, like, an exhibitionism or, like, group humiliation scene, in which case that might be a little bit more audience oriented, but I'm assuming you're not doing that. And don't worry about being late. You have plenty of time to catch up and rewind and watch everything later. So that's my answer for that. Thank you so much for the question. And let me know if you have any follow-ups and we will continue on. I'm in a poly relationship and wondering how I can make my boyfriends more comfortable in the relationship. Oh my gosh, this is such a broad question. So I'm gonna guess, because I can only guess because I'm not you. I'm gonna guess that means you are in like a V triad. So it's like this, right? And you're the hinge partner at the bottom, and you have two boyfriends that are not dating each other. Because generally, if everyone's dating each other, there tends to be less tension. Not always, but that can be the case. So, I don't think I can really give like a one-size-fits-all, like here's one weird trick to fix your boyfriends type thing. But I think it comes down to having conversations with them and being open about why they're not comfortable. Because being uncomfortable is very broad, right? It could be, I'm nervous I'm going to do this wrong. I'm worried you're going to leave me for the other person. I'm worried that I might not be polyamorous enough. I'm uncomfortable being in a V triad with a man because it feels too close to dating a man, and I'm worried I might be gay. I'm worried other people might call me gay because of the fact that or that like I'm going to be demasculinized or something because I'm at my woman is dating another guy. There could be lots of reasons behind why people are uncomfortable with that. And I can't necessarily tell you exactly what that is going to look like, but I can guess based off of like experience that usually it's a level of discomfort because it's like, oh, we're not really experienced with this yet, and I'm worried that you like the other one more than me, and you're going to leave me for the other person. And you can't force them to be comfortable. It could also be like, if they're sharing time together, that might feel awkward for them. And this is very important. This is, oh no, I'm going to accidentally, oh no, I started playing my own video. My bad. I was just checking how things were going on my phone. I accidentally started actually playing the live stream. So this is so hard because poly relationships look different for everyone. And so some people do really want to have a kitchen table. Everyone knows each other. We play board games together. It's super fun. Everyone gets along. And that is one way of doing it, but it's not everyone's way of doing it. Some people are like, you can date other people. I'm not going to be friends with them. I don't have time to be friends with them. I got my own other partners. I'm really busy with work. Like, happy for you to go on dates. We're not doing a group movie night. We're not doing a tabletop RPG together. And so I think it's about, you got to decide, okay, what is everyone's style of poly? Does that mesh? Do you really want like a kitchen table, everyone's friendly together thing? And is one person not necessarily able or wanting to do that? So that is what I would dig into, is like, okay, where is the discomfort coming from? What are your styles of polyamory? Can those all fit together? And can you have like productive conversations about it? And like, can you all sit in a level of discomfort that you are okay with getting through, with the intention of eventually working through it and becoming more comfortable with it? Because oftentimes, like, the thing in poly, and I don't want to, like, I'm not trying to tell people to just, like, be miserable and get through it, but oftentimes the worst part of poly is the beginning. Like, the hardest part about it is that very initial part when you're really scared of loss, replacement, shame, a bunch of really negative emotions that can be super heavy and hard to deal with. And if you can get through those first couple of weeks or months of being together, and then everyone involved saying, oh, you're not leaving me for this other person, then those fears start to go away and things can become more comfortable. So I wouldn't ignore really pronounced feelings of discomfort, but also that is because we don't really have a lot of good models about like healthy poly relationships, that is going to be a natural part of it, is like dealing with that discomfort. Concentrate on partner strengths. We all bring something to the relationship. Yes, that is a good point. Like if your partner's feeling afraid and they're feeling, oh my God, you're going to replace me, like, so the person more, don't sugarcoat it. Don't lie. Don't say something that's not true that you don't really believe. But definitely, like, if you can remind somebody, like, I really care about you. You're a really wonderful partner. I love how we can laugh at Great British Bake Off together and talk about politics. And I love that I can text you good morning and good night. I know you're always going to be there. There's so much that's wonderful and amazing about our relationship, and I'm excited to see it grow. And anyone else in a relationship with me is not a threat to you and what we have. It's really easy, and I've done this. It's really easy to get sucked into like fucking hours of like hashing it out, talking about it, fucking crying. Poly can be really intense. It can be really emotionally intense. And so as long as it's just like having a really brief, like even if nothing comes up, just being like, hey, reminder, little text message, little kiss on the forehead, little whatever. Hey, I like you, I care about you, you're awesome, right? Not just saying, I think this is important. Oftentimes, especially, I don't know if this is more true in poly, but I'm going to have a theory that oftentimes in polyamorous relationships, in open relationships, because, love as a concept may not be scarce, but our time is scarce. And because our time is scarce, if we have like 4 partners, we all have to pay attention to. If like 1 or 2 of those relationships is in crisis, we're going to be focusing on putting out those fires. We're going to be focusing on like, oh, we got to fix this. And so you can end up where you're just only ever saying nice things to people and reminding them why you like the relationship is like an apology, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I've been so busy, I've been having this thing with this person, and like, but don't worry, I still love you. Don't get in the habit of only saying nice things about people or about a relationship as I'm sorry I forgot this. I'm sorry I prioritized this instead. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for that. Like, say nice things to people, give them that affirmation as part of a practice in your relationship, not just as a band-aid. And this goes for poly, vanilla, kinky, monogamous, whatever combination. I think people need to feel like they are appreciated in the relationship and that you still are active there. And if people don't feel like you're actively participating in the relationship, that's gonna cause some damage. That's gonna hurt people. And just don't get to that point if you can avoid it. And sometimes just really, really simple little habits can help you avoid those pitfalls. So that's my advice for that. Thank you for the question, and I'm sure we will have many follow-ups to that as well. Exactly, like what could be a 15-minute convo being like 2 hours. This is very true, and I talked to, spoiler alert for a future interview, I talked to Dan and Don Williams about this, and if you are an external processor, if you are somebody that is used to processing your information out loud, hashing it through. I am this way myself. That's why I make 25-minute long YouTube videos. And when I answer a question, I say the same thing like 3 times. Part of that is paranoia because I'm used to no one paying attention on YouTube and just being like, why didn't you say this? And then like 5 minutes of my video I made is actually about that, but they just didn't pay attention to it. So I have a little bit of like a habit from being a content creator as well on this. So take what I'm going to say with a grain of salt, but I do think that people that are more external processors, and this is it, you can be introverted and be an external processor. So an external versus an internal processor is when you are working through an emotion, especially when it involves other people. Do you just deal with that on your own internally? Or do you need to talk to someone about it? Do you need to work, not even with someone else, but do you need to like paint something, draw something, say it out loud, sing in the shower about it, scream into a pillow? Do you need to let things out in order to process? Or do you more sit with yourself and think about it and process it internally. And you can be introverted in terms of like interacting with people, and then also need to externally process. And like you might not really love going to super busy parties, but when it comes to your intimate inner circle, you might want to talk to them about, hey, I'm having this feeling, or screaming into your pillow about it, or writing a intense song about it. I'm not entirely sure this is the definition of external versus internal processor, but this is how I'm using it, is like external is letting it out, internal is keeping it in. And this can sometimes fall along like gendered lines. Like I find that people that are men tend to be more internal and women tend to be more external, but this is very broad strokes, very, very, very broad strokes on that. So if you are an external processor, you can get into a rut of like needing to talk about it and just keep talking about it. And like, it can be really exhausting as the partner to have to keep saying, everything's gonna be okay. Stop panicking. I still care about you. This date is not a threat to our relationship. I still want to be with you. And like, it does kind of depend on your partner, because if you have a partner who's like, I mean, you want to have kids with me and I'm looking for a partner to have kids with, being reminded of that, or being insecure about like, you know, I'm 35 and this new person you're dating is 25. Do you like them more? If your partner is like, well, you're not getting any younger, or they say some fucking shit where they're like, you're the prettiest you're ever gonna be because you're always getting older every day. Like, if they say some shit like that where it's like, you literally just told me I'm getting uglier every day. Like, so to be fair, like, your partner can say things to you in a conversation that are going to be activating, that is going to like rev up your engines and be like, whoa, that was really hurtful. This is reinforcing my fears about how you see me. Like, when you're having a conversation, it's a two-way street. But regardless, you can get into these ruts of like needing to hash it out over and over and over again. And just sometimes it's like taking the pacifier out of the baby's mouth. Like, sometimes you don't always gotta like have the pacifier. Sometimes you just gotta know when you've talked it out with your partner enough, and it's time for you to go back and self-soothe and reflect and process what was said. Because sometimes it's like your brain hasn't fully caught up with what's the content emotionally that's happened, if that makes sense. So you can like get through a conversation, start to feel better about it, but maybe not feel all the way better until like 20 minutes later. And if you're still feeling, oh, I'm still kind of hurt, you might have this urge to keep talking about it more because you're not all the way feeling better yet. What if you just like waited? If you just like did a face mask and like watched a YouTube video and like kind of detached your mind from the emotional content for a second, you would start to feel better. I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert, but an external processor. So, you know, my life's fun. But I find that people think it's weird I'm an introvert because I do YouTube videos. Y'all are just names on a screen. If I had a Zoom call with 200 people in it, I would have a panic attack. Maybe I shouldn't joke about that, but I would feel very anxious. I would feel very anxious if I had a Zoom call with 200 people's faces staring at me. Not gonna lie, it would be difficult. But yeah, I think it's easy to get stuck in a rut, and there's like so many layers to this, right? Because like when we're really emotional, we get into places of like wanting to talk through things with our partners. It can feel really good to hash it out and like until like you have just turned everything into mush. Everything has been done to death. You're not gonna get any more blood out of that stone, but you still want to keep going because you don't feel good yet. And you have to be able to recognize that just talking about it isn't going to make you feel better. Sometimes you need more processing and self-soothing, and that you need to do on your own. Sometimes you just need to detach from the emotional content and let your brain reset based on the new information you just got or the conversation you just had. So if you're really activated and you're starting to come down and you're in the conversation, you're like here in the conversation, you're like, oh, well, I still feel bad. Let's keep talking so I can keep going down. You're going to keep going down anyways, even if you stop talking. You just got to take your brain off of it for a second, redirect those feelings, because feelings only last for with like 30 seconds in your body or some shit. And if you can figure out a technique you can reliably use to detach from those instant, very intense emotional feelings, you can start to help yourself feel better much faster. And also, as like a final thing, sometimes things just hurt. Sometimes they just suck. Sometimes talking about it is not the fix. Sometimes just like, actually, it did really hurt my feelings that you told me you were going to use a condom with a new partner, and then I found out you didn't. There is no amount of talking or self-soothing that is going to solve that. That is a fundamental core, in my mind, a trust violation, potentially a boundary violation, and that's going to take more work than just like, hey, I love you. So, take all of this with a grain of salt. I think the very unfortunate thing is sometimes these realizations and like mental health tips and like communication tips can be weaponized by people that do not have good intentions because they want to proactively absolve themselves of responsibility. If your partner says something mean to you, if they tell you that like, oh, you're not getting any younger, you're looking old today, you're, I don't know, you're looking kind of fat. Like, if they say something that, like, to them is, like, they might not even mean it in a mean way. They might be like, oh, I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. Radical honesty. Your partner can say something that is mean and say something that's hurtful to you. And not mean to, but actually be hurtful. And if they just go, well, you need to self-soothe around that, honey. You need to process that on your own. Like, no, you need to apologize because you said some mean shit. You can be like, well, it's true. If you're bringing it up during an emotional conversation that like, well, actually also this thing, there are very limited contexts in which it's okay to tell your partner out of the blue in an emotional conversation, just like, harsh truth, sweaty, but like, you've gained some weight. Like, what? No. Like, especially if you know if your partner doesn't care, okay, whatever. But most people care about that, and it would feel hurtful to hear a partner say things like that out of turn. And so you got to be careful what it is you're saying, and it's not always just on the processor. It's not always just on the person receiving something in a conversation to process it correctly. And I think that sometimes in conversations about polyamory, relationship communication, we get in this position of always like, oh, it's the receiver. You need to be more open-minded. You need to give the person the benefit of the doubt. You need to, always take everything in good faith. If your partner is an emotionally and mentally abusive piece of shit, if they're manipulative, if they're just mean and with their words, it's not on you to like be better about receiving the message. Sometimes the message has to change. And so, while I think it is good to sort of, not overreact to everything, take things in good faith, like, I think broadly those things are good, but when it gets weaponized into, it's always your fault because you misunderstood me. It's your fault because you never understand what it is that I say. It's your fault because you don't give me the benefit of the doubt. It's your fault because if everything always ends up being your fault in a relationship somehow, if everything always ends up being, well, you never understand what I mean. You always try to make it my fault. You, like, I don't even know how to like frame this, but it's like sometimes people are very resistant to having their modes of communicating changed. And when someone calls them out that like, hey, the way you communicate is hurtful to me, like, I've already tried everything. What else can I do? You're so sensitive. Like, sometimes, yes, you are being sensitive, but if somebody is always deflecting criticism with like, stop being so sensitive, I'm just being truthful, radical honesty, why can't you hear the truth, you should really just be paying attention to what I say, that's a red flag. That's gonna be a red flag, sweetie. It's not always like the worst thing ever, but yeah, you gotta actually listen. You can say anything you want providing someone is listening. Well, and it's not even that. I think it's listening in the sense of like somebody has to be able to receive your message. Like, you can talk, but if you say mean shit, the other person is probably going to shut down and not hear whatever it is your intention was. So, like, if you find you're in a communication rut and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't communicate, like, either my partner doesn't get me or I understand them or whatever, then you got to think about what is the message you are trying to send, right? If your noble intention was saying something like, well, you're not getting any younger, or like, you look fat, or like, you've gained some weight, is like, oh, well, I want them to take better care of themselves. Like, we're gonna not even get into the fat phobia ageist conversation here, but that's, no, it's part of this. You might have the good intention, technically, of being like, well, I want to help them eat healthier. I want them to be around for longer. I'm concerned about their mental health, like whatever it is. Okay. If you're concerned about their mental health, is there a different way you could ask that and get to that point than just like, you look fat in that dress? Like, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of this could potentially be retroactively justifying just mean statements for the sake of being mean. But some people just don't realize. They're like, oh, well, I wouldn't mind if somebody said that to me. If somebody said that to me, I would just check in and see if it's true or not. Like, not everyone processes information and statements from their partners that way, especially intimate partners. And so you do have to go, okay, if what I want to communicate is I am concerned that they're sliding back into depression, then you have that conversation and just say what you mean. Honestly, that's really what it comes down to. Is say what you mean, but don't be mean. That's my axiom. Say what you mean, but don't be mean. But what if everything always is my fault? I would say that very rarely everything is actually your fault. I would say I think one thing is you can't get stuck in apportioning blame. You can get stuck in these conversations about, well, you did this and I did that and you're wrong here and you're wrong. It's really easy to get sucked into deciding who was wrong. And especially, like, honestly, I don't feel good in relationships where I'm always made to be the problem. Like, if somebody, like, because I've had enough relationship experience to where I'm not always the problem. If I am always the problem, there's probably a fundamental underlying incompatibility. It's not that literally you're always wrong. It's that, oh, we might actually be compatible. We may process things differently. We may have different expectations for what we want from a relationship or from partners. And coming to that realization might mean that either the level of this relationship needs to change, or maybe somebody else is more suited to you and you're not going to run into these issues, right? Yeah, you can say anything constructive as long as somebody's listening. If you want to deconstruct a person, yeah, you best have consent. Yeah, if you're going to do hardcore humiliation play, you should talk about that first. That's my opinion. But also, like, what you say isn't free from consequences. I feel like this is something that is very politically relevant today, but also is very much something that happens in interpersonal relationships, where people will say something and then they'll be like shocked by their partner's response. Like, why are you being so sensitive? Why are you upset right now? And it's like, because you told me I was stupid. Like, you told me I have a simple mind. You told me I'm dumber than a box of rocks. I'm being hyperbolic, but like, if somebody says something mean, you're allowed to have a reaction to that emotionally. What you do with that emotion is a different question. But you are allowed to have a reaction to that. And if somebody else gets upset, I feel like you can't say something mean and then be shocked when the other party is offended by it and is upset. Like, you can't be like, oh my gosh, it wasn't even that big of a deal. Why are you so upset? Why are you crying right now? Why do you always catastrophize? Why do you always, like... Anyways, I've had it fucking here. I get so many stories from people that are like, anyways, my dom is, like, borderline emotionally abusing me. Is it my fault because I'm the submissive and I should be paying attention better? Like, emotionally unavailable dominants need to stop taking on emotional submissive partners. If you don't have the capacity as a human being to deal with other people's feelings, don't be a dominant to somebody that has a lot of feelings. I have canceled everyone. I know, no more free speech. Your free speech now has consequences. I'm sorry to report. Breaking news. Your speech has consequences. If you say something mean, somebody might be offended, and then they might not like you as much. Also, I'm playing with, like, a chain bracelet, so if anyone's wondering what that noise is, I am a fiddler. I fiddle. It's my thing. I do not have ADHD. I swear to God, I have taken exams for ADHD. I basically fail them in the sense that nothing is there. But I do like fiddling with things. I have like whatever the opposite of ADHD is. That's much more what my brain is. I'm like, I do not relate to this experience personally, but I get it. All right, great conversation. Glad you all hopefully enjoyed that. Okay, talk about slave training. I have a video on position training, and I have a video on submissive self-training. So if you want me to talk about slave training, you gotta give me a question about slave training. Like, do you want, what is it? How do you do it? Is it real? Restate in the form of a question, and I will get to it. Can I show my bracelet? Yeah, it's just like a cheap metal bracelet. It's like one of my like work things. This is from like my office uniform days. Oh, thank you, Twixie. No questions this week, but want to say thanks. Always, you're so welcome, Twixie. Thanks for being here. I like this because it's gold and silver, so it means I can wear it with anything. I hate only if I have to wear all gold or all silver, it really bothers me. I hate it when things mismatch, but now with this special bracelet, I can wear any colors I want. Please can you comment on being a single male attending a kink event when you are not known? Eek. That is very unique thing. That is very much a unique thing. You have my deepest condolences. That is my initial response. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It is very difficult to be, whether you're a sub or a dom, because they have different but like equally bad stereotypes with them, being a single man attending a kink event. And I don't know if you are a dom or a sub. It says Mr. Bratfinger, so I'm assuming that you're a dom, but I could be wrong. I'm just gonna make a guess. I feel like what newer, especially male dom and male submissives too, what you need to do is prove that you're not there for sex. I find that most of the problems that happen with like newer male doms is like people are, and I think honestly it's sort of warranted, are skittish around new people. I think the opposite reaction that happens to younger female submissives, where everyone like goes crazy and they're like, oh, you're gonna be my slave, I'm gonna train you, I'm gonna make you mine. Like, people get really creepy really fast. That's also bad. But not getting any attention at all and being treated with skepticism is also bad in its own way. So you just gotta prove you're not there for sex. You gotta prove that you're there as like a human who is interested in like being part of a community, not just like, hey, I heard this is where all the loose women were. So showing up to multiple events, watching from a respectful distance, starting conversations without the intention of it leading to play and just to get to know people, really, really, really good step. In a non-forced way. If you can talk about your education, what you've read, your other interests, that's also a good sign as well. I would not go around like carrying a toy. I think this is something that new male doms do a lot, where they just like, they walk around the dungeon just like carrying a flogger or carrying a whip, and they're like, why doesn't anyone want to play with me? That can work sometimes, but for the most part, it kind of makes you look like you're trying to stalk out somebody to do something to. So just like get a toy bag, put it in a locker, leave it in a safe spot. Don't walk, like, people are going to assume, if you're a man and you're like in a heterosexual BDSM space, people are going to assume that you're a dom anyways, or a top. So you don't have to do that to be read accurately as like being a top. And just like be polite, be kind, read the rules, be respectful. Talking in groups is really good. I would advise against, unless you're talking to another man or another dominant, I would advise against like isolating talking to like individual single women. Talk in groups, talk to people that are like, you know, they seem like they got like a badge or something. Just make yourself a known quantity and be really open and go, like, it's probably gonna take you a couple times, but when people figure out you're here for like the long haul, I think you're going to get a better reception. And if you have an opportunity, like, go to newbie nights, go to taster events, go to things where there are going to be more newer people, so that way you can start to get some more experience. But I think that's really the most important part is just like, you know, proving you're not there to like, you know, I'm here to find my new girlfriend for my girlfriend delivery service. Ding ding. And then if you're a submissive man, I feel like the two things that pop into my head are don't be obnoxious and be respectful. I think that Love and Leashes is a really good example of this. Love and Leashes, movie on Netflix. Review is recorded. I swear to God, I have edited 4 videos this week. It is coming up very soon, I promise. I am trying to catch up on things. But Love and Leashes is a great example of how male submissives, because it can be so difficult to find a partner, it can be, and maybe I'll make it male. I'll pop this in my idea list. I'll do like the reality of being a single man in the BDSM community or something. You know, as a single woman, as like a non-collared submissive woman, a very valuable femme-white opinion. So, realities of, because I don't want anyone to feel like I'm like selling them a reality that's not there, right? Like, it can be very difficult to be accepted as a single man, but it's not the end of the world either. Like, the truth is somewhere between the two extremes. Realities of being a single dude joining BDSM. There we go. Idea added to the list of video topics. But single submissive men, I think, can be really, really overzealous because, as I was saying, it's like being in a desert and then getting a drop of water. Like, it's the most exciting thing ever when you see someone you think might be a dominant woman. It's like, oh my God, finally a woman to dominate me and peg me, do other things to me, and blah, blah, blah. Like, you just end up going way out into left field before even having a conversation. And that can come off as very creepy and aggressive. So I know it's very difficult, but if you're a new male submissive and you've wanted this for forever and you've had all these fantasies and you want to meet someone, do not come on too strong. Desperation and clinginess are just like, I don't even know what it's like. It's just, it is anti-catnip. It is anti-catnip for dominant women. If they can feel that you are too desperate, they're going to be like, oh, this is not good. Because people that tend to act that way, not all of them, but if you come across as like too desperate, a lot of people that are like that tend to be like, mistress, please step on my balls. You can do whatever you want to my body. I have no limits. And that can also be very exhausting to deal with. And they also, like, I'm going to be frank, a lot of male submissives are very, is pillow princess a phrase that works here? They are very self-centered. They don't realize it because, well, I'm a submissive. How can I be self-centered? You can be. A lot of male submissives that come into the lifestyle from watching porn and jerking off to like dominant porn are used to their personal fantasies being the star of the show and getting exactly what they want and nothing else, and then turning off the porn as soon as they're personally done. And so they don't really necessarily know the realities of being a submissive. Like, you can't just walk up to literally any dominant woman and then be like, mistress, please step on my balls, and then she'll step on your balls. That's not how it works. It takes time to get there. So don't be too desperate. Don't be too clingy. Have some fucking sense of boundaries. Don't drool over every tall woman in heels or every woman that wears black. Like, just like be respectful. With male submissives, though, you do have a little bit of a better opportunity when it comes to like femdom oriented events and going as a single person, because you totally can go and then just like do foot worship for someone, or like, I think you actually have more opportunities as a single submissive man going to femdom events than like a femdom events, than going to general BDSM events as like a dominant man with no previous experience, in my opinion. It is harder to find a relationship, but in terms of play opportunities, there are lots of women that like, they have time in their dance book. Okay, give me a foot massage, worm. Like, all right, let's go. Like, they are more than happy to do stuff like that. But I think you have to not be creepy. You have to decenter yourself as like, I'm gonna get what I want from my fantasy, and then just kind of like not thinking about other people as people. That is the biggest downfall, I think, of a lot of submissive men, is they're actually bottoms, but they think they're submissives. Like, they can want to receive sensation, but they think they also want to be submissive to somebody when they really don't. They want their Big Mac exactly how they want to order it, not a minute too soon, not a minute too late, no, 3 pickles instead of 2. Like, they want to be very, very precise. And most dominant women that want a relationship don't want a submissive that's going to be like that particular and be like, actually, I'm only okay if you spank me 20 times, but not 25. They're going to be like, well, that's not very fun for me to have to micromanage to that degree what I'm allowed to do as a dominant. So anyways, but generally the same thing is like being there, being present, not just going after people with the intention of dating them or playing with them. Actually be there as a community person, make friends, show up, and obey the rules. Honestly, if you obey the rules and don't actively drool over every woman in the room that's like seems like they might be dominant, you're going to be a step ahead like 50% of submissive men that go to parties alone. So, I am sad to say the standards are not that high, but they could be worse. Those are kink vending machines. Humans have emotions. Don't treat people away just to get your kink stuff fulfilled. You need to value them as a fellow human being first. Yes. Very much yes. And the obvious sadly does almost always need to be said. So, with that, next question. Would love to know, what is the one thing / piece of advice you wish someone would have shared with you when you came into the scene as a submissive? I'm trying to think about what exactly I didn't know. Because I feel like I actually fairly early on did get to learn about like what a negotiation is, aftercare, safe words, check-ins. Like, I think I learned about a lot of like baseline safety stuff. So I actually think that's like pretty well covered. I think what I would have wanted to, and I'm not saying no one expresses this, but I think it's something that I've tried to make a more prominent part of my education. I would say, excuse me. Don't know where that came from, but all right, we're yawning. I would want, like, so we mentioned earlier training relationships, slave training, right? I wish that more people had warned me about, like, because mentorship was really popular at the time. Like, a lot of people were into being mentors. A lot of people had mentors and guardians and like protectors and mentors. They were like the two hot things in the kink scene in like 2014. Everyone was super into that. So I would be cautious about people that are very much like, oh, I'm gonna train you, I'm like, they might be like, it's for your benefit, you're a new submissive, training is gonna make it so you can play with anyone you want. I'm gonna teach you how to be a proper submissive. People that tend to say things like that a lot, where they're luring you into being in a relationship with them and being like, oh, we're having like a practice power exchange relationship. Like, can you think about how that would work if you were like, you had a practice sex relationship and they're like, oh, no, we're not having real sex. I'm just putting a penis in your vagina so you know what it feels like for when someone does it for real. Like, no. Like, what ends up happening is people that oftentimes get into training relationships with newer people is they want to have a power exchange relationship with someone as young as possible. They know that looks bad, and or they don't want to have the responsibility of a full power exchange relationship. So instead they say, oh, well, I'm just training you for when you get to your real master. This is only temporary. And so they don't have those same obligations in their mind to you, even though they should. And they get to play at being a dominant and getting the authority that they want to have without necessarily having to treat you in the way that you've been told a dominant should. Because you go, oh, well, they're only my trainer, so like they shouldn't have to do that stuff because it's not like for real. And it's like, even when you're practicing it, the power exchange is still very real and still very much affects you. So I would have wanted people to tell me more about like, hey, a random guy that approaches you and wants to like, because I had this happen like 3 fucking times. I had random men I didn't know in their 40s when I was like barely in my 20s, you know, twice my age, be like, oh, well, I can train you to show you everything you know about being a submissive. And it's like, training can be okay, but like, everyone has their own way of doing things. Everyone has their own style. And they're really only teaching you how to be a submissive to them, not in general. Like, if you want to learn how to be a submissive in general, talk to and learn from other submissives. That's how you actually learn. Yes, and then also people that just, it's the MLM of kink. Yes, it can be, it can be. People explicitly focusing on new people, they know me so much. Yeah, they're a problem. And it's funny because I don't even think they realize they're doing it sometimes. They're just like, oh, I don't get it, why is it a problem? And it's like, well, I don't know, you tell me why you're almost 50. Why do you only ever want to have submissives that are 21 years old exactly? Think about that. Think about that a little bit, maybe. It is a little bit scammy. So that's what I would have wanted to know more about that I didn't really hear people talking about when I was younger. And now I have heard it a lot more, thankfully. And I think it's like that gray area of BDSM that I think genuinely is something that causes a lot of people to leave the scene and just never come back. Because they have someone who promises, I'm going to train you, I'm going to do that. And then they take advantage of them. They assault them. They break boundaries. They say, oh, well, like, if you're a real submissive, you don't. A real dom would never want you to. Whatever. And that's very dangerous and very toxic. So I think that is one of the, like, hidden pitfalls that we're starting to address, where it's not the sunshine and rainbows that people make it out to be. I think I've seen the Brat Life subreddit. I gotta be honest, I've seen stuff on there I'm like not fully on board with, but I'm also not a brat and I'm not a brat tamer. So as long as it's consensual, it's okay. But I think sometimes brats, they can go a little too far. They can. That is a reality. And I have seen stuff come from the Brat Life subreddit that gets onto other subreddits where I'm like, that wasn't consensual. That was not negotiated. But can't get to all of them, you know. Can't help everyone. Cannot help everyone. All right, next question. Have you made a video on QPRs? I'm really interested in your perspective on them. I do have a video on queer platonic relationships. Basic review. I am not in one. They do seem pretty cool. I'm a bottom when it comes to BDSM. And I'm new to this awesome lifestyle, and I have a dom, and I want to know how I can get started. Yes, I do have 4 years as well. So you already have a dominant partner. You're a bottom. I mean, it depends so much on like what you're interested in. Like, do you not know anything that you're into? You're just like, I could do anything. I mean, I recommend doing the BDSM test, so bdsmtest.org. That'll give you a baseline of like what your core areas of interest are and like narrow it down from there, right? I think that like sensation play is a really good way to start. I think that like light bondage can also be a good way to start. Things like dirty talking during sex, or like if I don't know if you have a sexual relationship with this person, but sometimes just like adding in a little bit of like BDSM talk during sex can be a good way of exploring it and see how you feel in certain roles. But you say you're a bottom, and so that probably means you may be more into like the sensation side of it, but like light impact play, sensation play, different role play stuff could be really good as well. If you have a dungeon near you, it might be a good idea to go and like just watch. And I've talked about this a couple times down the stream, but I really do think it is good to just go, watch, observe, learn, get ideas, respectfully afterwards, during the social space when they're available, maybe ask some questions. But I think that going and seeing how other people do BDSM can give you some really good ideas about what it is that you would want to do. I also really recommend, you're on my channel, so you're probably educating yourself. That's awesome. I definitely recommend, watching movies like, Love and Leashes or Secretary. Those are good places to start. Audiobooks, ebooks, channels like mine. Just like educate yourself, learn a lot about a bunch of different stuff. And then when you have that knowledge, start to sort of dive in. But don't go too hard. Don't go too fast. Just start like really, really small, tiny scenes. See how you feel about it. In the past, when I have introduced new people to BDSM, and it's like a friend that somebody's known for like a long time, they're like, oh, I know you just like BDSM stuff. I kind of like want to try it because I'm single now. Can you show me? And we've basically done like kind of like a crash course 101 type thing of like, here's all the terms, here's what you need to know, and then doing like mini sample scenes of like, here's what impact play is like, and just doing it like no heavy role play, no anything like that, just like plain English, tell me how you feel, is this good, is this bad, and just like trying a bunch of stuff, not any sort of like, pick one thing, right? Don't do bondage and impact and sensation play all at once. Do like one thing, one at a time, see how that feels to you, and then go from there. And have lots of check-ins, maybe like keep a diary, and that'll really help. Lots of weird stuff on Brat Life. Have seen some users that are very communicative and consent-minded, and others are, well, not. All in all, I hope people treat it more as a silly subreddit than a resource. Fair enough. Good point. Generally speaking, don't take Reddit seriously. Just you're gonna be in for a bad time. Do you think people can stay friends with someone they have dated / been with for a long time, 3+ years? I don't think anything is possible. It depends on the people involved, and it depends on why you broke up. I think if you were dating and you broke up because of like cheating, I think you probably can't be friends. But if you like started dating when you were like 17 and now you're like 22 and you're like, or like 25 and you're like, oh, we just want different things, like when we were together we ate pizza rolls and watched like scary movies, and now you want to go back to school to get a master's degree and I want to move to Europe, like, or you don't really see a point in getting married, but I really want to get married and have kids. Like, you can really like someone, you can love them even. You can want to be with someone and also realize that what you both want from life means you can't be together as exclusive primary romantic partners. And I think that's like one of the most sad things about adulthood, I think, is when you're a teenager and you break up. It's never because it's like, oh, our life goals are incompatible. It's always like, oh my god, you cheated on me, you did this, you did that, blah, blah. Or it just comes out of nowhere because it's like, I don't really like you that much. I don't really care. Like, it's very blasé. Whereas when you're an adult and you go through breakups, it can oftentimes be the case. It's like, well, we really love each other and like we really do want to be together, but also like we can't both have the lives we want to have, and also the other person will be happy. And sometimes that means you just gotta like realize, okay, like we're still gonna be close, we're still gonna be friends, we'll still talk. Maybe not all the time. I do recommend after like a breakup, I think it's good to have a clean break and just like not communicate for a while and deal with your own shit, get your therapy, whatever it is you got to do, and then at a later time reconnect and then maybe restart the potential of having that friendship. Because also, like, you might think you want the comfort of the friendship at first because it's like, oh, this person isn't really out of my life, and it would suck if they suddenly left because that would be so much, like, wasted time. And you might find after, like, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months of, like, not being with that person anymore, that, like, oh, like, why would I want to be friends with them? Like, I'm just, like, I'm fine, kind of bopping around, doing my own thing in life. And you might find that really, actually, like, there were more reasons behind your breakup that wasn't just, like, oh, we want different things out of life. You might kind of reflect later and go, oh, actually, they weren't really a good person, or we didn't really have the same values, and, like, maybe we weren't all that great, So, again, I guess to answer the question, it really just depends on why you broke up. I would say most of the time, it's going to be very hard to stay friends, especially because if you're monogamous. If you are actively friendly with an ex, most people are going to be very suspicious about that. They're going to be like, why are you friends? Like, are you still fucking? Like, what's happening? Like, they're going to be very worried about you cheating on them with your ex. Or they're going to worry that you're not really over the ex and you're just, like, the Band-Aid physically while you are still emotionally attached to the ex. And I think that's why I like the separation after a breakup, is because you need to have that space to emotionally deconnect and, like, become your own separate person again. And not just, like, be intertwined with the other human being, All right, my jaw's starting to hurt. I'm like, I filmed videos before this today, or I filmed a video, at least. It took me longer than I thought it would. I filmed a video before this today, and I never do that because I always realize it's a bad idea later, and then I just get, like, really exhausted from all the talking. Might be a dumb question, but how do you really go about self-play? I've never tried it because for something like, say, sensation play, how do I know when to end the scene with myself? I feel like I should know this. No, totally not a stupid question at all. I think that's a very, very fair thing to wonder about because we don't really see that a lot, right? Like, you don't normally see people that are just going out in the world like, here I am doing my self-play. Here's how you do it. I'm trying to think of how to, like, recommend you do this, because I do self-play, and I think you have to be much more explicit. I think you have to be much more explicit with the way that you go about your goals for the scene, right? Because when you're playing, especially at the bottom, the other partner kind of dictates, okay, we're done now, we've done this. And with self-play, it's like, okay, when do I know when I'm done? Like you said, obviously. And I think it works much better if you can lay out, okay, this is what I want to achieve. Like, I want to get some bruises. I want to feel catharsis. I want to cry. And when I've done self-play, typically my goal is, like, I want to cry. Like, I need to get through something emotionally, and I want to cry about it afterwards and just, like, let out all of my feelings. It's typically a very cathartic experience when I do self-play. And so when I am done, when I've gotten through everything and I've cried and I'm kind of getting towards the end of crying and I'm kind of feeling physically I've done what I can do to myself, like, I've ramped up the intensity to, like, where I can go on myself, and, like, you're kind of naturally gonna come down from that. Once I've achieved that, then I know to wrap up the scene. But obviously not everyone's self-play scenes are, like, intense physical cathartic experiences. Sometimes it can just be about, I want to feel relaxed, right? I want to put on a comforting TV show, and I want to wear, a binky and a binky, like, they're the same thing. A binky or a pacifier, whatever you want to call it, a onesie, a tutu, and I want to, just enjoy being in a little space for, like, 30 minutes. That can be a goal. It could be, I want to feel relaxed in my body and feel close to my body by, like, doing wax play or doing sensation play. And it can be hard to internally feel, like, when you're done and be like, I've achieved what I wanted to. And self-play is not for everyone, right? Just like BDSM is not going to be for everyone. Self-play is an experience that does require, I think, having a connection to the sensation of the play itself outside of somebody else doing it to you. And if you are very power exchange driven unless you can do like a really funky kind of mind fucky headspace thing or like hypnosis thing of like self-hypnosis, thinking that like you're doming yourself. I find that people that are primarily power exchange driven, they have a much harder time enjoying solo play scenes and getting into that mindset than people that are just more generally bottoms. Yes, please do not spam the chat with questions. If you want to make sure I answer a question, leave me a super chat. I cannot promise I will get to a question unless you do a super chat, unless you do something along those lines, super chat, Streamlabs down below, because I just have a lot of questions, so. How much do consultations cost? So if you are looking for one-on-one advice, and I think I should have this linked in my description box. Let me see. I do. So for one-on-one chats and like advice and consultations, what is it? I think it's $35 for half an hour and $55 for a full hour. So I'm cheaper than a therapist. I'm not a therapist, but I am cheaper than a therapist is, or a pro dom. So if you want to be part of that, if you do want kind of more one-on-one help with like, I have this new relationship, what do I do? That is patreon.com/evlupine2. I have the first Patreon is my general Patreon that is like not safe for work. For the one-on-one chats, for complicated reasons, I have to have two. But I have like a general, just second one that is only, it was not general. It's only for my one-on-one chats. It's the only thing that's on it. It's just for that. And it's $35 for half an hour and $55 for a full hour every month. So, yeah. I was craving head pats all last week. Listen, pet players know what's up. All right, let's see if we can get to a couple more questions here. The rant is very entertaining, but I've missed the beginning. So what is she ranting on? I don't remember what it was about. You're going to have to rewind. I'm sorry. Can you please join Twitch? I'm on Twitch. I don't stream these on Twitch because I think about talking about pegging and anal would probably be a TOS violation if I was on Twitch. But I do have a Twitch account, by the way. It's also evlupine down below if you want to watch me stream. I usually stream on Mondays, sometimes other days of the week too, but on Mondays that's where we're primarily streaming. Except after we're streaming this Monday, the 17th. The 24th, I will not be streaming on Twitch, FYI. Yes, so the chats, no, just like I would say most people I talk to are just like, we're just shooting the breeze. So to be clear, for my one-on-one chats, it can be a chat, it can be shooting the breeze, it can be working through a particular problem, it can be planning stuff, it can be whatever you want it to be. And I have people across the spectrum that just like want to talk to a kinky person. Sometimes it is very goal-oriented and it's very particular, but most of the time it's just like, what's going on? How's your life? How you feeling? So whatever you want from that experience, it's up to you. The only thing is, it's not sexual. So if you want me to do BDSM play or like do phone sex, thankfully, I've never had that actually happen during one of these chats where somebody's like expected that. Thank God. Don't break that streak. Anyone listening to this, but it's for any reason. It can be whatever you want as long as it's not sexual. I don't think dominant women have an aversion to male bottoms who are not subs, but I'm not a male sub or a male bottom, so I can't say if that experience happens 100% of the time or not. Twitch stream is at 5. It's 6 on YouTube on Fridays, but 5 on Mondays, because I like having my schedule be different every single day of the week is, I guess. Okay. I will get to, I think I have probably time for at least like 2 more questions. Let's see if I can be quick. I got a lot of questions. I love your collar intentionality, Evie. I treat collars and meaning the same way, even if I just treat collars as fun things sometimes. Yes, and I think that's true. I want to be clear with collars. I do, like, there's collars that are for play that are just, like, practical bondage things, because I do love bondage, and sometimes I just want to, like, just do bondage and just have that be that. But when it's, like, a collar that has meaning to it, and it's, like, a metal locking collar especially, any kind of collar, I would want to have the potential for that to be a very mindful thing. But it can also just be for fun for bondage. But I want there to be that opportunity for it to be more than just that. How can an inexperienced daddy dom get experience? I don't know, the same way that an entry-level employee gets experience, you get lucky. I'm going to be honest, it's mostly somebody decides to take a chance on you. That means showing up to events, volunteering, going to munches, being a part of the community, meeting people through that. That can also be online stuff. It can also be online munches, online events. But you are going to have your best success meeting people and getting a chance to do stuff, being present, becoming familiar, and people being comfortable being around you and being like, oh yeah, we know that guy, he's good. You know, he knows what's up, he knows about safe words, you know, he's really involved, he's great, right? And then they're going to recommend you to friends, and that's going to help you that way. But, you know, you got to have somebody who's willing to take a chance on you first. And the best way to make that happen is by not seeming like a dangerous threat. So just work on that, I guess. Do you have any advice or insight on... let me move. Do I have any advice or insight on text-based LDR stuff? I feel like a lot of stuff focuses on IRL, and I'm nervous to enter BDSM community spaces as someone who's primarily online. So I don't. That isn't my FAQ. I don't generally give advice about long-distance relationships because I have not done a long-distance BDSM relationship. I have done long-distance vanilla, but not with kink. So I don't know what that experience is like. I get being nervous. I wouldn't say that people are judgmental about it, at least in today's day and age. I think in like the 90s it maybe would have been a little bit different. But I can't really give any advice on like text-based stuff, except for when you do enter Meet Space, the real life BDSM community. I would say 90+% of the time you are going to play harder online than you would in real life. So just because you can say you're going to do all this stuff and do all this like really extreme online submission stuff, just because you can do that over text does not translate to your ability to do that as a bottom or as a submissive in a real life scene or a real life relationship. So you cannot fully predict your in-person experience based on online things. So be cautious with that. It's not like useless or anything. It's not like invaluable or completely unrelated. You just have to be really careful about not like if you do, this is maybe a bad analogy, but if you do like Microsoft Flight Simulator, if you have like 400 hours in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you are still not a pilot. You still cannot actually fly a plane. It can give you really good skills, and it's a different skill as well on itself. It can give you some baseline knowledge and skills, but the only way to really know how to fly a plane is to learn how to fly a plane in real life. Even if you have 400 hours in Microsoft Flight Simulator. But that's my 2 cents. No, these are ears. These are not horns. But, you know. No, Love and Leashes is fine. I do have a review coming on Love and Leashes, but I haven't edited it yet because I've edited like 4 videos this week, and it's a really long video. It's so long. It's like an hour. You guys better watch that video when it comes out. It's like going to be an hour long. It's going to be the deepest deep dive into Love and Leashes yet posted to YouTube. I can basically guarantee it. But I have seen it. I have reviewed it. Don't worry. I had to make that rule of like, don't ask me about Love and Leashes, because I would get like 10 people who would ask me on a stream, oh, do you know about Love and Leashes? Have you seen Love and Leashes? And it would just like bog down the chat because I would have to keep answering that I had seen it, but I hadn't done a video about it yet. I am curious about dabbling into this. What are the pointers I need to know when getting into either a dom or sub scene? Oh my gosh, I feel like this should be, I'm just going to call this like the newbie advice stream, because I feel like there's like so many new people and I love it. Because we have 5 minutes left, I'm not going to be able to thoroughly answer this, but I will say, if you're still listening, I hope you are, go to my BDSM 101 playlist. I have a huge playlist with like all of the intro information that you might want to know about. What I would want you to do, if you are newer, if you can find like a BDSM 101 class online, in person at like a local event or something, I'd recommend that. Some hot tips that you should Google about, because I'm not going to be able to explain all of these right now in 5 minutes. You're going to want to know about negotiations, consent, boundaries, safe words. What other core things are... What BDSM stands for as an acronym. Basic different types of scenes. How to negotiate with somebody. How to give and obtain consent. Resources like the BDSM Wiki, r/BDSM community. They typically have a really good FAQ that'll give you a great overview of a lot of very basic information. And I would say, if you want to stay safe, don't meet people you just met online in private. Find public events. If you don't know how to do that, I have a video I'm doing soon on how to navigate a website called FetLife. FetLife, FetLife.com. That is a really great resource for finding events, finding classes, going out and doing that, and meeting people in public and playing at dungeons and public play spaces. Unless you already have a partner, in which case that whole point of the advice is moot. But it's like really hard to just like in 5 minutes be like, here's everything you need to know about BDSM to be prepared. But if you in the future, because I do these streams every Friday at 6 p.m. So if you have other questions that are specific that I haven't answered yet, come back next week, ask those questions, and then watch my 101 videos. In addition to Evie's great advice, thank you. If the dungeon has different rooms, I find that facing away from the door makes me more comfortable and not worry about the people that might be watching. Yes, and also if you're bottom, things like hoods or mask or other face coverings as well can help you feel less self-conscious. I want to say that as well. I was just about to ask about attending a play event and if it's expected that I'd participate when I'm still learning my roles. Absolutely not. No. Whether you're a new sub, new bottom, new top, new whatever, no matter what you are in BDSM, I would say, depending on the dungeon, most of the time, most people are going to just be watching and talking. You never have to play. You never have to do anything. I know lots of people where I think I knew them in the scene for years and I never saw them play at a party. I never saw them do anything. They just they showed up, they volunteered, they watched. That was it. So no matter your experience level, no matter who you are not expected to do anything other than obey the rules and just listen or watch politely. That's really it. These are like Pomeranian ears. That's what they're supposed to be. I do have some wolf ears. You should look at, if you want wolf ears, I think it's Woodland Creature Shop. Woodland Creature Shop on Instagram does wolf ears. I don't have a link right now because I can't like link to an Instagram shop through YouTube, but like I'm pretty sure it's Woodland Creature Shop. I have like old videos where I've reviewed stuff from them before. I can't seem to find anyone who is into kink. I am on FetLife but can't get anyone to play. Any advice? Because FetLife is not a dating website. FetLife is not a hookup website. It's not a scene planning website. FetLife is primarily for finding events you meet people at and then talking to people after you've met them at an event. If you are like some random fucking Joe Schmo being like, hey, submissives, come play with me. I promise I'm safe. And you're like a completely unknown quantity, most people are going to be like, I'm not going to play with a stranger online. And I am not going to advise people otherwise. I would never tell someone to just like go talk to a stranger they met on the internet and then like go to their house and play with them. Don't recommend that. So if you're on FetLife, like if you want to meet people to play with, use it to find events to meet people at instead of trying to find people on FetLife to then play with without any other conversation. People are just screaming bandit. She's not even here. I don't know where my dog is actually. I could try and find her. You guys want to give me a second for me to find my dog? How do I find a femdom, not a findom? Don't look on Instagram. I know lots of really awesome femdoms, so it depends on what you're into. I could just name, there is Lady Vi, there's Daddy On Lee, there's Justine Cross, there's, oh my gosh, who else is on here? There's Catherine Control, let's see, who else do I know? It's like a dominatrix. Petra Hunter, Elena DeLuca, Victoria Rage, Ruby and Rawls. There's a lot of people that I know. So the thing is you gotta find people who are local that are dominatrixes that do not use findom. Like, it's real easy. Just look for people who say they're femdoms that don't say they're findoms. It's actually not that hard. Most people who are femdoms do not do findom stuff as their only kink. Well, she's in my house somewhere. My house is bigger than this office, you know. I don't just live in my office. She's probably outside. That's really the answer. Because she loves being... I'm going to look, actually. I have a camera outside now. I'm going to see if she's in the yard. No, I hear her. I hear her outside my door. She heard me summoning her. Is that a dog? Is that a dog? Is that a dog? It's my dog. It's my dog. Hi. You sneezed on my face. What? Hi. I haven't seen you. You're so wet. You're all wet. You were in the yard, huh? You were in the yard. You were playing in the grass. You were playing in the grass. All right, come here. Ta-da! Dog. She's wet because she's out in the grass. What do you have to say for yourself, little missy? What do you have to say for your little wet paws, huh? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Hmm? Yeah, you a good girl? Are you a good girl? Oh, big yawn. Big yawn. Big yawn. Hi, sweetheart. Hi, honey. Are you good? Are you good? Yeah, look at that tail. Look at that tail go. I'm actually gonna take your jingles off. Give me a... What? Ooh, there we go. There we go. Jingles are off. Ta-da! How you feeling, sweetie? Hi. Hi, how you doing? How you doing? How was outside? On my shirt. There we go. What? She's like between my arm. I don't know what's going on. I know our ears match. See, that's why. See, when you see it, right? You can see like you can kind of like her ears are down, but like you know, you get the shape, the Pomeranian shape, right? Are you sleepy, girl? You seem kind of sleepy. You seem kind of sleepy. You seem like you want to take a nap. You seem like you want to do a little nap. She's a very floofy bean. She's a very floofy bean. Bean with wet paws that keeps almost pulling my dress down. The dog, the whole dog, and nothing but the dog. Exactly. You are such a little weirdo, and I love you. All right, that's all. By the way, we're done with questions now, in case anyone was wondering. Questions are finito. All right, I'm going to just, like, have the camera zoom in on the dog just one last time. Hey, little dog. You want to say hello to the people? It's, like, hard to get her on camera. We go. This is like what she looks like. She's like very trying to like. There we go. You guys can kind of see. There we go. Hey, good girl. See the baby. Oh, sweetheart. All right. Ooh. There we go. We're laying down, but her tail's wagging. You guys can't see it. She's like, I am so happy to be here. All right. That's going to be it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for staying through the Bandit finale. I'm going to go and watch the latest episode of the Great British Bake Off and then edit a video. So have a good night, guys. Stay safe. Thank you all so much for being here. I do these streams every Friday at 6 p.m. Don't miss them. Subscribe. Give the video a like. Watch for my other videos. I am also on Twitter. I'm on Patreon. Do not sleep on the Patreon perks, all right? Don't sleep on them. I do one-on-one chats. I got a Discord chat. I got tons of exclusive videos, tons of fun stuff, extra streams. It's pretty good. It's pretty good stuff. But thank you all so much for being here.